We're at a palace called Khorsabad, Khor, Khorsabad. It was discovered by a French archaeologist, Paul-Émile Botta, who went out to the Middle East looking for Nineveh. Because in the middle 1800s, our times, lots of sort of European nobles and aristocrats with not much to do but loads of money decided, what should we do? Let's go out and look for Bible stuff. And a lot of Middle Eastern archaeology was motivated by finding Bible places and things. Nineveh was really hard to find. It's a massive city. Its walls were between 40 and 100 feet above the sand level of the day. But by the time Botta got there and others, it had gone. The sand had literally swallowed it up. It hadn't sunk, but the sand rises. And so the whole city, it's got walls that are 8 miles in circumference. And they're so big you can ride 2 chariots side by side all the way around. And by the middle 1800s, sort of, 2,000 to 3,000 years after these places were built, it's gone. It's just buried in the sand. If you've been, it's old news now, but you think of the Iraq War and so on. When you hear the name Mosul, the name Mosul? Mm-hmm. Some of you may. Mosul is Nineveh. And sometimes if you see pictures of the ruined Mosul, as it was not many years ago, you see lumps outside the city, and those are the ancient walls of the city of Nineveh, which have gradually been uncovered. However, Emil Botta, bless him, couldn't find Nineveh, even though it's massive, so he moved and he was digging at an area called Khorsabad, and almost literally one of his spades clinks on the top of one of these enormous lamassu, they're called, these winged bulls. And so he uncovers the palace at Khorsabad, and in doing so, he unintentionally solves a Bible problem. Because until this place was found, there was always believed to be a historical blunder in the book of Isaiah. Isaiah is a book full of prophecy, with some historical stuff thrown in. If the historical stuff is wrong, then you can assume the prophecy is not really prophecy. That's how we work, and we'll see some real examples of that upstairs. And in Isaiah chapter 20, verse 1, Isaiah just in passing says, the king of Assyria, Sargon, he names him, used to come down into the northern territories of Israel. He used to bring his people with them and transplant them into these northern territories and cause trouble and go away home again. The problem for Isaiah, living around 750, 720 BC, the problem for Isaiah is that only Sargon we've ever heard of in history is more than 1,000 years before. So it looks like somebody's making up this book. They've got the wrong details, they've got the wrong king. We've solved the problem of prophecy in Isaiah. We don't have to worry about it anymore. Until, bless him, Frenchman Paul-Émile Botta digs up the palace of the hitherto unknown King Sargon II. Who lived when? Well, exactly when Isaiah lived. And it did exactly what Isaiah said he did. He used to bring his people into the northern territories of Israel, leave them there, which gives rise to this whole northern-southern, but the northern kingdom, the Samaritan kingdom, is the corrupted, polluted kingdom, right? So that's why the people in the south never had anything to do with the people in the north, because they've been corrupted by generations and generations and generations of infiltration from other cultures. This is where it all came from. Today we can meet Sargon, and here he is on the wall, on the left-hand side. That's King Sargon II. And he is wearing, you'll notice, the very first Apple Watch. Some of you will get that. It's got a little sundial on. You hold it up to the sun. It tells you your heartbeat and how many paces you've done during the day. None of that is true. Don't record any of that. Well, that's King Sargon. Now, interestingly, he is facing what the museum probably says, and it's almost certainly true. He's facing Sennacherib, his son. Now, he knew all about Sennacherib. He never knew anything about his father. And this is how it works. His father was a great king. He was a very powerful man. But we didn't know anything about him. So that's quite striking. This is what archaeology often does, quite unintentionally. Whenever it has anything to say about the historical biblical text, it always, without exception, affirms it. It always confirms it. And I can say that very confidently. People say to me, what's the thing that worries you most about biblical archaeology? What's the thing that's been found that causes the biggest problem with the Bible? And the answer is, there's nothing, because every time you find something, when you understand it properly, it affirms the biblical text. Okay? There's things that are still argued about, and we'll see some of those upstairs, but that's a general principle that always works. There is nothing that has thrown the biblical historical narrative into serious question. And even when these questions existed until a couple of hundred years ago, you just wait for a piece of stone to come out of the ground, it will always say, oh yeah, Isaiah was right all the time. It's striking.